Seek first the kingdom. What's up, friends? Welcome to my channel. My name is MichelleAna. If you're new here, welcome. If you've already been subscribed, welcome back. Currently on my channel, we are in the Unscripted Grief series, where I have kind of been going back in time a little bit and sharing a little bit of my story, if you will, parts of my story that I just wasn't really ready to tell. And unscripted grief kind of just came from this term that the Lord was really just walking me through back in 2017 when my late husband passed away suddenly, and he was literally about to be 27 the day after he passed away, which is kind of crazy because even when I think to myself that I was only 26 years old, I still am like, girl, what? Like, wow. But anyway, that year God was really just walking me through certain revelations and certain insights that I started to have with him in his presence. And a lot of it, I just couldn't really wrap my head around. I couldn't really explain or express, but I tried. And so he just was showing me like, there's nothing scripted about what you're doing here. There's nothing that is formulated. As you're living this out, you are living out a guide that you will one day be able to gift the world. It's not a perfect guide. It's not a guide for everyone, but for those who it is for, it is going to help them break free from some of the shame and embarrassment and guilt and rejection and fear and lack of insecurities or lack of confidence and the things that they're currently dealing with. And it will one day help them. And that one day kept knocking at my door, and as much as I tried to put my hands in many, many different things that have, thank God, been super successful, God has favored me in many different ways, influencer marketing, coaching, YouTube channel, all these different things. God has really favored me in being able to be creative in my expression of beauty, lifestyle, traveling, and all these things. But I knew deep inside something was always missing. I always felt like there's so much more to who I am. There's so much depth to my story that if I even had the slightest audacity to come up on this channel and be surface level, like, it just wouldn't even be me. Like, it just wouldn't even be me. And so I'll say all that to say, throughout the past few videos or the last few videos in this particular series, there's a playlist, by the way, if you want to catch up on all the videos. I've been kind of like just really gearing myself toward or allowing myself to not feel like I have to come up on here with a script or come up in these videos and act like I know the answers to absolutely everything that has happened in my life and in my world. I don't have the answers. Oftentimes I just don't know why God allowed certain things. I don't know why certain people have done certain things. Child, sometimes I don't even know why I made the decisions that I've made in my past. And I'm just like, girl, what were you thinking? I mean, have you guys ever been in that place before where you're just like, dang, I could have done better, but you just didn't know better? And so I want to talk about identity in this video. I do have a few notes that I'll be kind of looking at my phone toward, because I just really feel it's very important that fear can no longer have a grip on your voice. Fear can no longer have a grip on your confidence. Fear can no longer have a grip on your destiny. There's so much freedom on the other side of fear. There's so much power on the other side of fear. There's so much glory that God will have in your life on the other side of fear. Just take a look at your life and think about all of the things that you have not been able to do. What was the reason why you've not been able to do? Maybe it's not the right time. Maybe, I don't know, the funds weren't there. There are just so many reasons why. But I want you to think about, in your heart, personally, where have you allowed fear to keep you away from something that was a good thing, that was a God thing, that literally stopped you from experiencing the potential of who you are. And I'm saying all this because I have been there for many, many, many years. I allowed, let's say, the opinions of others, my own fear of the future, fear of the unknown, fear of not knowing how it's going to work out, fear of not being provided for or not having enough money, like all these different things I allowed to get in my way. And I finally came to the place where I was like, no, baby, it's not even about the external support or the external things being in their perfect place. It's about the divine encounter that happens when you give God your yes and you completely surrender to what you wanted your life to be. I don't claim to know all the scriptures. I really don't. I don't claim to know it all. I probably am very much more like you than you think. And I just love God. I just love God so much. And I feel like I've been kind of placed on this earth to express the love of Jesus in a way that is beyond me. I can't even really express it. I can't even really explain it. And I think half the time I try to explain it to myself. I try to walk through how these different things make sense. And sometimes they just really don't make sense. Sometimes I want to formulate the answer and I want to know where is this going? Where is this series going? How are these things happening? And then I sit and I sit with God and he's like, would you just let me lead the way? Would you just let me have the control here? Because ultimately at the end of the day, it will all work out. Literally, you've already won on this side. There's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to fear. So with all that being said, I want to talk about identity because throughout the last, I would say just in my 20s and maybe even in my teens, I don't even think I fully understood identity for what it was. And so I can't even say that I have rediscovered my identity in the last few years because I feel like I never even really knew what it was. I didn't know the value of just MichelleAna. I didn't know the value of just my being. I did not comprehend that God loved me so much or loves me as much as he does. And for so many years, I would try to do things to gain his love. I would try to do things to position myself for him to love me more. I would try to behave well and stay away from certain things because I wanted God to love me. And I wanted to understand his love and I wanted to know his love. And in trying to understand this love that God has for me, I was low-key rejecting it because I was running in every area. God, are you pleased with this? God, are you pleased with this? Is this good enough? Is this good enough? And the whole time he was saying, babe, I love you just as you are. I love all of who you are and everything. Your marital status, that does not even matter to me in terms of how much I love you. Your financial status, I love you. You owning a home or owning property or renting, that doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that you understand that I love you, that I called you for such a time as this, that I have placed you on this earth for a very specific time. And what I'm saying over myself and what I'm reminding myself and the words that I'm saying right now and sharing with you is the same for you. That's the beautiful thing. I am not like, I'm not the only one that he feels this way toward. He feels that way for you too. And so a few videos ago, I started to share a little bit about my story, about my experience of being a wife and the things that I experienced as a result of being married to who I was married to. And I was married for for a little over 5 years, and with this person over like 10 years. So we're talking about this decade that I spent with this one person, growing and being challenged and all these different things, these experiences. It really shaped and molded a lot of my characteristics, or a lot of my habits, or a lot of my ideologies, and all these different things. Because when someone is in your life and has influence in your life, and you trust them, and like they're your person, like, yeah, especially if they're a good person, a positive person, a person that loves God, like they're going to influence you in one way or another, right? Positively, or maybe even negatively, whatever the case is. Someone you spend a lot of time with influences you in whatever capacity you allow them to influence you. And the funny thing about all of this is that I feel like, because my late husband and I like knew each other from teenage years, like I feel like we kind of grew up and we evolved to the little humans that we were when we got married, and then even in the time frame that he passed away. And so because of that influence, we valued a lot of what each other had to say. We cared about each other's opinion for many different reasons. The main one being because we were married. And so I remember there was a time in July of 2016 that I came home, and there was like a letter waiting for me. And I already thought that it was odd. Honestly, I thought that it was super odd. And in that letter, Curtis just had expressed to me that he had came to a conclusion, to a decision on his own, that he no longer wanted to be married. The next few days after that were so confusing and so up and down. The reason why I'm sharing this is because I know with all of my heart, I know that someone out there is experiencing heartbreak, whether it be grief or a breakup or a divorce or a separation, that probably pretty much is breaking you on the inside. And I want to let you know that I was there. The days after this whole thing happened, we actually took a trip to one of the places that have my heart, down south. And I remember we went into the church that we both served at for many, many years. And I remember our first lady, we just locked eyes. And I don't know if you guys have ever been in a place where you're like screaming for help from the inside, and you just wish and hope that somebody will look into your eyes and know exactly like what you're going through and will speak into your life. Or like, have you ever been to a church service where you're just like, I just need somebody to pray for me, but I don't know how to ask for someone to pray for me? Baby, I know that. And that Sunday, I was so desperate. And I remember when her and I, after the service, when we locked eyes, it was a wrap. Like, she was like, hey, meet me in the back, You already know, when the mothers of the church, okay? That's all I will say. But, she took me around the back, and when I tell you guys, I needed that breakthrough to carry me through everything that was getting ready to happen in my life. And not that particular just one moment was what carried me, but what I'm saying is that like that moment was almost like the catalyst moment that helped me to understand that God had my back, that like I was remembered, and that God did not forget that just because I was in that situation, my God, just because I was in that situation and felt so unseen and felt so like not defended by him, that moment when I tell you God came in and said, babe, like, I got you. Like, baby girl, I got you. Oftentimes, what happens in our lives is that we blame God for certain things that happen, but we have to remember that literally we all have a decision to make. We all have our own will and our own intentions and motivations and deciding factors and decisions to make and choices that we have to make. And sometimes those decisions affect people that we love the most because that's not what they want for us, or we didn't necessarily subscribe to the best version of the thing that they saw. At that moment, I just felt like the peace of God and the strength of God build me back up again. And so we went back home because it was a road trip. We went back home, and y'all, when I tell you, from that July to January of 2017, I honestly cried more in those 6-7 months of my life than I had ever cried probably my entire life, you know? And so Curtis wanted a divorce. He wanted out of the marriage. I wanted to fight for the marriage. I wanted to work the marriage out. I wanted to go to counseling or therapy or all these different things. And he had agreed to a therapy, which we went to a therapist, and we started to kind of go to, I think it was like bi-weekly or something like that. And just in that moment, just things started to escalate and escalate and escalate. I just remember feeling so heartbroken, embarrassed, like rejected. Y'all, I truly lost myself. And we're not even talking about like everything else I still had to kind of show up for and be strong for, because I was going through this and I really didn't want anybody to know. Like, I just was embarrassed. You know, everyone, when I tell you everyone just looked up to us, and not because we tried to portray a perfect couple. We really did love each other, and we displayed that, and it was genuine. In that season of my life, like, I literally hit rock bottom. Like, I was at the end of me. But at the end of me, at the very core of the shattering of everything that I ever thought had existed in my life, this is when I realized that my husband was literally seated at the throne of my heart and not my God. And so I went through this season of dethroning Curtis from my heart, dethroning him from my heart, because even as he was my husband, obviously he was number one priority, you know, on earth, aside from God, my priority to God, right? But at that time, I didn't realize how much my priorities were just so caught up and contingent on his existence, on his role in my life. I didn't see it before. And in that time, in those 7 months, God literally started walking me through just that dethroning, because number one, God needed to be on the throne of my heart. He needed to be at the center of everything that I did, independent of who stayed, who left, how much money I made, my marital status, my influence, all that stuff. Independent of all of that, he needed to be at the center of my life. And honestly, at that moment, I just really realized like how much I made my world about this relationship. Not to say that marriage shouldn't be your priority, but this shouldn't be kind of this end all goal for anyone. Your mission on the earth still continues. Your purpose on the earth still continues. You still gotta be who God called you to be individually and together, of course, but even individually, you are the one that is going to be held accountable when we, when God meets us and when we meet God one day. And he's going to look at you and be like, so what did you do with what I gave you, And we all know, like, God's grace is sufficient. And so I say all this to say, what do you have in your hands that you're just kind of like putting on the back burner because something has your attention that really shouldn't even have your attention the way that it does? And honestly, looking back now, I don't even recognize her. I don't even recognize that version of me because she has healed so much. She has gained so much confidence. She has begun her journey to understanding her identity, who she is in Christ, who God is, the characteristics of God, and the things in which she would be able to reflect because she's an image bearer of who he is. It's going to take a lifetime for me to get to know this God, right? To get to know Jesus, right? It's going to take a lifetime for me. And so that's why at this moment, like, I'm like literally sitting with the girl or the guy who is in the same situation that I found myself in, heartbroken, confused, maybe even mad at God, and feeling like you did everything right in your world, right as you could, right? You followed the rules, you did what you had to do. And even when you broke the rules, you still were a good person, right? You still tried everything you did to honor God along the way. And then things like heartbreak happen and things like death happen. And you're just like, God, why? All these different things happen in your world. And you're sitting with this right now. And this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. I don't even know how to make sense of exactly where this is all going. I hope you guys know that. I don't know where this is all going. But I do know that it was time for me to show up for that broken heart. It was time for me to show up for that individual that needed the encouragement and the words that I'm literally sharing right now. In this time in 2016, I found myself journaling a whole lot every single day, journaling and weeping. And now you guys know, like, really, really why journaling is so important for me and why I advocate for it so much. But even before then, I was journaling as a teenager, even as a little girl. But in that time, it was so sacred for me. It was like God was literally prophetically speaking into my life with the scripture as well as with the revelation that I was getting in my journals. So while I was showing up on YouTube and making the videos that I was making, I was sharing glimpses of those revelations. I wasn't necessarily showing all of them because some of them were personal to me. But when I got to the place of understanding this channel was not just going to be, and I don't say just like minimizing other beauty channels or anything like that, but this wasn't going to be the only thing that I was going to be talking about. And that's when I started to introduce the faith on my channel. I feel like I probably will just need to do another part of identity because it's such a huge part of this whole story. So make sure that you like this video for a part 2 of identity, because I feel like this is going to be a really long video, and this is a very this is a topic to me that really spoke into my soul. When I got this part, things started happening. So I think the last thing that I want to say is that in that time when I was fighting for my marriage and we were, working through things, but yet they just really, he wasn't fighting anymore. I was the only one fighting for the marriage. And I want to say this, in the faith, as a Christian woman, I've heard it a lot. I've heard it time and time again. And I believe in marriage, and I think marriage is absolutely beautiful. And I believe that something that is good and worth fighting for, you fight for that thing. But if you're the only one fighting, right? If after a certain point, you're the only one fighting, you're the only one adapting, you're the only one trying to change things, you're the only one hanging on, there comes a time where you truly have to let go. And by all means, I'm not suggesting, I'm not your pastor, and I'm not your counselor, and I'm not your mentor, and I'm not any of those things. I'm just, listen, I'm here, a vessel of God on this YouTube channel. But what I'm saying is, do not devalue who you are because someone decided that you were worth walking away from. You're worth fighting for. You're worth being loved well. You deserve someone that chooses you and that honors the commitment and the covenant that they made on the day that you guys united. You deserve that. And don't get me wrong, some days when it was good, some days I was like, I don't even know if I like you right now, but I still love you and I still choose you. But I know there's so many people that are probably on the other side of this. Don't drag people along the way. Don't drag people. If it's time, it's time. If things have to end, they have to end. If you want to fight and you're believing God to restore your marriage, I am sitting here with you, bro, sis, I am. But do not lose your life for the sake of saving a marriage that will no longer produce anything because the other person is done. I have so much more to say about this, which is why I'm writing a book. But if you do find yourself in this journey of like wanting to embark on healing and journaling and all that comes with that, I do have a journaling masterclass that I did create actually. And I often kind of splash it here and there because people do ask me very often, well, how do you start journaling? I don't understand the concept of journaling. Why is journaling so important to you? It's not in the Bible or anything like that, but it's something that has personally helped me. And so I created a resource for those of you who desire to really document these moments with the Lord and these insights and revelations that he really gives you. Those are sacred moments. So if you're interested in that, click the link in the description box below. Once again, if you guys want to listen to a part 2 of identity specifically, just give this video a thumbs up. Obviously, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. And y'all, I will see you guys in my next video. Mwah.